once things go back to normal, and they will, it's important that you live in the new normal, one where technology and offline teaching coexist. Hi everyone, I'm Paul David Eskew, and I'm a serial entrepreneur from Canada, originally born in Mexico. And I've been focused the last 10 years on servicing small businesses with digital marketing. And also I've been a lot in the e-learning space and the education space around personal finance and real estate. Now, I'm going to start to talk to you about in the next 5 minutes about how education and leadership should look like in a time of crisis. And quite frankly, as educators, these are some things that you should have been doing a long time ago. So we're going to talk about the digitalization of work, and also how you should be teaching tomorrow's leaders around their attitude to cope through a crisis. So I'll start with a couple short stories just to illustrate my points, right? So in the last week, my mother was begging me to teach her how to use Zoom, which is exactly what I'm using to record this call here. And she needed to use Zoom so she could actually talk to her clients as a counselor at a distance, but actually still get them through these hard times, right? So she told me that after doing this just for a week, she felt the most productive she's ever been. And she was as little stressed as possible because she didn't have to commute to work or be distracted at work. So really, this is like a transformation for her as a baby boomer. And she's not the only one. I mean, there are a lot of other people like this. So I've had authors, entrepreneurs, and professional services that have asked my digital marketing agency that they want to finally build that website that they're putting off, or they want to finally learn how to use LinkedIn as a business development tool. It's something that they knew they had to do, but now they know it's essential. So I think what this tells you is that people are realizing that relying solely on you servicing people offline is a complete disaster of a strategy in most cases, because we have to be more digitalized, right? So I think people also learning to slow down, right? So slowing down isn't a terrible thing in times of crisis, because it forces you to be more productive and think about the big picture things that you should have been thinking about when we weren't in a crisis, but now you're forced to do it. And I think a lot of that bleeds into how people use technology to help them get to the next level. How do you scale your vision, right? So I think as educators, what you need to consider is a handful of things. I think you got to consider what tools you actually use as an educator. And I think you have to think about, how do you deliver education at a distance, right? So I'm, for example, working on an online course. This is an online course that I've been putting off for a long time. And now that you have restaurants shut down and students working from home, this is the course that I know I have to release now. So I'm doing a course that's helping students do digital marketing for restaurants that are either closed right now or can't have people in their physical restaurant. And they're teaching them how to digitalize their restaurant to do online delivery and things that allow them to adapt to a new age. So this is something that I've been doing. And what I'm doing is I actually recorded on a Zoom call just like this. I can have different people in on the Zoom call. We can interact, we can ask questions, I can share my screen. And then after that, I put the recordings on Google Drive or Dropbox so they can access it whenever they like. And then after that, we actually interact on a tool called Slack, where people can ask each other questions. And these are the questions they're going to be asking each other in between classes, right? And most of the learning really happens when you're not in class. You're applying theory to actual practice. So using a tool like Slack would allows for communication between students. It allows them to be teachers with each other. And it's less talking on your end. And that's kind of the new way I see education forming, is there's more than one teacher in the room. I think that's really important to think about, especially in a time like this. Now, I think it's also an important time beyond just digitalizing education. It's to think about what are the important lessons you can teach students in time of crisis. And what I'm seeing right now in many industries are that a lot of business leaders immediately fire their staff or they cut their wages. In some cases, it was justified because they had zero income. But in a lot of cases, they're doing it as a precautionary way to make sure they keep their bonus at the end of the year, right? And why this is actually a huge, huge mistake is because they're failing to see that as a leader, your most important asset isn't your cash. It's what generates your cash. It's your people. And once this blows over, and it will, who do you think that their staff are going to trust? You've basically ruined everything, especially doing it right away, right? So this is a time where you got to teach your students that when you shine the most, for better or for worse, is when you are in a time of crisis. And that's something that your staff members, your peers, and your customers are going to see very easily. So I think while we're physically social distancing in the offline world, we need to make up for that by being emotionally closer in the digital world and life in general. So those are actually really important things that I think you got to think about and really talk to your students about. And I think it's also a really important time for people to ask themselves the hard questions. And that's around the way that you budget your money and your time. And I think that it's so important to think about this, especially now, because you should always be spending more resources on the things that are most essential for how you want to run your business or your profession, right? And I think people lose sight of that when times are good. And when times are bad, you're forced to really look at, well, what's most essential. And if you think about it, to some degree, you should be doing this all the time, even when things are good again. So to conclude, I think it's important for you as an educator to become a student again, to experiment with technology in your classroom, because once things go back to normal, and they will, it's important that you live in the new normal, one where technology and offline teaching coexist. And you also need to help students develop an attitude and a mindset where they take setbacks as learning opportunities and need to ensure that what they do for work, we all have to ensure that what we do for work is so essential and so important, especially in times of crisis, that no matter what, we will always be needed. There will always be work. That is the ultimate way to shield yourself from a crisis in the future and level up to be at the optimum level of success. So with that, that's all I have. Be well and stay healthy, everyone. Thank you.
All right, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Look, if you made it this far, don't be shy. Leave a comment below. I really want to hear what you have to say. And lastly, do not forget to subscribe. You've just been watching Arrive and Thrive. See you next time.